the more information we get out about hemp and what a fabulous plant it is and what it could do for the economy of Oregon, one, and for the economy of the United States is just tantamount. It's very important. I am not necessarily an expert by any means, but I have educated myself on hemp because as a wheat farmer, what we traditionally do is we grow one field 1 year with wheat. When it's harvested, you leave the stubble on the ground, and then that field stays fallow for an entire year so that the plant breaks down and it puts nutrients in the soil, and you also get some moisture from the rain and so forth that gets stored in the ground. And that's what the wheat seeds use to grow up again. We found out that hemp is a fabulous rotational cash crop that you can be growing in this field 1 year and you have wheat in the other, and then you swap them back and forth. It works very well as a natural herbicide because it grows a lot faster than the weeds do, and it crowds them out essentially. So you wouldn't have to use quite as much herbicides as you would with the traditional wheat that we do right now. And I would rather not have to do it. But there's a lot of weeds and stuff that are very aggressive. There's thistle and morning glory and things that just will take over a field really quickly and you lose your yield. We had our first hemp harvest in the United States in over 50 years in Colorado. That was awesome, and I hope to be able to do that myself very soon. And I have to ask the question, well, why can't I myself grow hemp? And that question is that some years ago, some very moneyed interests, the Hearst family, the DuPonts, the Rockefellers got together, and they came up with a thing called the the Marijuana Tax Act. At the time, people referred to hemp as hemp, and so when this legislation was going through, they changed the name to marijuana so that the hemp farmers were like, well, I don't know what this marijuana thing is, and so they didn't get involved in it until the last minute. Well, it was a little bit too late, and they were pushed out to the point where they couldn't do it anymore until they started the Hemp for Victory process during World War II, because we needed to have ropes and canvas and a lot of things to use in the ships and to fight against the Axis powers. And one of the reasons why that is because hemp is one of the strongest plant fibers known to man, and it's very resistant to seawater. So seafaring peoples of the world have been using it in their ropes and their canvas and their sails for years and years and years because it lasts a long, long time. As a matter of fact, they found ships at the bottom of the Mediterranean Ocean that have been down there for 2,000 years or more, and they have hemp fibers on there, and when they bring them up, they still can identify them as hemp fibers because of its fabulous resistance to seawater. And so I think that it would be an amazing thing for us to be able to actually farm it here. And going back to those moneyed interests, they also came up with something called the Reefer Madness campaign in order to get people on board with making hemp go away. They had to make people think that if people smoked it, they were going to go crazy and jump off buildings and rape people and do all kinds of stuff. And they did a really good campaign of smearing it. Randolph Hearst was fabulous at doing that propaganda, and he promulgated that idea, and that idea still stands today. As a matter of fact, one of Congressman Blumenauer's cohorts that he works with is Michelle Bachmann, and she has an ad on her webpage that is called The Faces of Pot. And what they did is they took the Faces of Meth Lady and said she was a beauty queen, and then 2 weeks later, look at her after smoking pot, and she just has this melted face. And so it's just silly that a lot of people still believe in that stupid idea of what hemp or marijuana would do to somebody if they smoke it. As a matter of fact, my father used to make jokes about smoking rope, and his buddies would laugh, and I would be like, what's smoking rope? I don't understand this. And I later found out it's because ropes are made from hemp, and hemp was associated with the things that are intoxicated, in which it is not at all. So the other thing I know about hemp is that it is one of the most easily digestible plant proteins known to man. And there are no known allergens to it. So you can eat it, you can put it on your body, you can do all kinds of things with it, and it's really fabulous. And I think that, again, we should be able to farm it in the United States. I want to be able to farm it as soon as possible. We're, of course, going to have to do studies because we don't know what strains are going to grow in arid areas like Eastern Oregon. Dufur doesn't get a lot of rain. So the moisture that comes out of the sky in the springtime and in the wintertime, that's essentially what you get to irrigate your crops with. We're also in an area where you don't do a lot of irrigation from the ground unless you're growing something like alfalfa. But you can't grow alfalfa in some of the higher areas. It's usually in the lower stuff. And we have some of the best alfalfa in the world. But, you know, I'm partial to it. Again, it comes down to educating yourselves, and that's one of the things that I did was educate myself on it as much as I could with the limited things, the limited information. More information is coming online nowadays, which is fabulous, but recently a gentleman did a really simple film called Bringing It Home. It's a great little documentary. It's really short, it's funny, and it's got some great information about the differences between the cannabis indica and cannabis sativa, why they're cousins, and why we should be able to tell the difference between the two. So if you guys could get a chance to look at that, I don't know where it's on Netflix or whatever, but you should be able to find it someplace. But it's called Bringing It Home. Yeah, YouTube. There you go.
It's actually being played out there on my laptop out on one of the tables. If you want to see part of it.
So I urge everybody to watch that. So yeah, that's all I've got there. I do want to say one thing. If Monsanto gets a Protection Act, why don't we have an Oregon Farmer Protection Act to protect us from that?